Hello, this is Pennsylvania State Senator Dan Laughlin representing the 49th Senatorial District. The 49th District encompasses most of Erie County, except for a few places in the southern portion, such as Edinboro, Union City, and Corey. So welcome to the state panel for the 2020 Youth Civic Engagement Symposium. I'm a lifelong resident of Erie County. In fact, I attended high school at Fort LaBeouf and the school on Cherry Street, now known as Erie High School. Before being elected to the Senate, I owned a business in partnership with my brother. We worked hard and long hours, but built a business we were very proud of. One of the major reasons I wanted to be elected was to support policies and programs that create jobs, limit government spending, and ease the tax and regulatory burden on employers, which, by the way, are job creators. Since becoming a senator in 2016, I travel often to the Capitol in Harrisburg to advocate for government reform and work toward making state government accessible and accountable. On a daily basis, my staff and I strive to make state government more accessible and helpful to the citizens of the 49th District. As a state senator and member of the legislative branch of government, one of my highest responsibilities is to consider and pass laws that impact our daily lives, our communities, and the economy. In addition, my staff and I provide citizens information on legislation, assist with processing state paperwork like driver's forms and car registrations and things relating to state taxes and licenses like those required by nurses, doctors, and hairstylists. Most importantly, I am fighting to bring taxpayer dollars back to Erie for our own economic growth and prosperity. In 1701, William Penn wrote the Charter of Privileges, a charter that made Pennsylvania the first American colony to have a democratic government. It also stated other basic laws and rules. The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania has a three-pronged government structure that includes state legislators, consisting of an elected 50-member Senate and 203 House of Representatives, state judges, and the executive office, led by an elected governor and an appointed cabinet. During my short time working for you, I have learned a lot about the role of state government, the influences that it has on one's personal life, but also the number of opportunities it provides for you in your future. Did you know that Pennsylvania employs more than 80,000 people? Several of my state colleagues are joining you today to discuss their respective roles in the government, including the House of Representatives, PennDOT, Presque Isle State Park, and the Department of Community and Economic Development. I hope you enjoy learning more about the inner workings of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Laughlin. Hello, my name is Sheila Sterr, and I'm the Northwest Regional Manager for U.S. Senator Pat Toomey. Today on our panel, you're joined by 4 leaders in our community that work with the state government to provide services and needs for their representative communities. Each of them will give them a brief introduction of themselves. First, I'd like to introduce to you State Representative Bob Murski.
Hi, I'm State Representative Bob Murski. My career and where I started was in education, and I taught at many schools in the Erie area. I started my career at Holy Family School, which is now closed on the Lower East Side. And then I went to Cathedral Prep, and I taught there for a few years. And then I went to the public schools. My time in Erie, I taught in Corey for 1 year, Corey Area High School and Middle School. I split my time between the high school and middle school, half a day in each. And then I went to Erie's public schools, and I taught at Wayne School and then East High. And then I spent 1 year in the cyber program at, which is now Erie High. And I finished my teaching career at Northwest Pennsylvania Collegiate Academy, where I spent 2 years teaching geography, AP World, and AP Euro. Probably the biggest thing that I do now, though, is I legislate and I make laws for the people of Pennsylvania.
Thank you. And next joining us on the panel is Janet Anderson, and she's the Executive Director of the Northwest Pennsylvania Workforce Investment Board.
Hello, my name is Janet Anderson. I am the Executive Director of NWPA Job Connect. We are the local workforce development board and the public workforce system. Most people know us as the Pennsylvania Career Link. I have spent 5.5 years in this role and have come from economic development and workforce development through state government and other opportunities in public sectors, and look forward to sharing with all of you today more information about the public workforce system.
Thank you, Janet. And also joining us today is Matt Green, and he's the Park Operation Manager at Presque Isle State Park, which is under the umbrella of the Pennsylvania Department of Conservation and Natural Resources.
Hi, I'm Matt Green. I'm the Park Operations Manager at Presque Isle State Park Complex. I kind of came to my job from a background of public service and outdoor recreation. I joined the United States military directly out of high school, was in the Air Force for 4 years, and directly after that kind of jumped into the outdoor recreation field with National Ski Patrol and whitewater rafting. Kind of continued into that vein through my college career at California University of Pennsylvania, where I did enter into the Bureau of State Parks with the Department of Conservation and Natural Resource at an entry-level position as a Park Ranger 1, working my way up through the law enforcement ranks to the position of Assistant Manager at Prince Gallitzin State Park, became the manager at Point State Park, and most recently here, the Park Operations Manager at Presque Isle State Park Complex, which includes the Tom Ridge Environmental Center and Erie Bluff State Park.
Thank you. And lastly on the panel with us today is Brian McNulty, and he is the District Engineer for the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation.
Hi, my name is Brian McNulty. I'm the District Executive or District Engineer for District 1 at PennDOT. So we cover the northwest corner of the state of Pennsylvania, 6 counties in the northwest corner. And we take care of many roads and bridges, over 3,000 miles of state-owned roads and around 2,000 state-owned bridges that we design, maintain, and construct throughout their entire life.
Okay, thank you. Now we're going to go on to some direct questions that we have for each of the panelists. First, we're going to start with Representative Mirsky. Like you informed us, you were a former teacher at the Erie Public School District, and you spent a lot of years working with students. But you've also been an Erie City Council member, and now you're the elected member to the PA House of Representatives. When you think about community, elected office, government careers, and volunteerism, what are some things you believe are important to students to understand?
I think one of the most important things is the concept of community, that we are all part of something bigger. And if you want to make a difference, then you have to get involved. And your level of involvement can be anywhere from, volunteering at a food bank to, getting involved in a cause or something in your neighborhood. So for example, for me, I started out not in politics. I started out actually in Neighborhood Watch. That's how I got involved in politics. Was I started a Neighborhood Watch in my neighborhood because crime started to go up and people's cars were getting broken into. And I wanted to help my neighborhood. And from there, I started working with the government, and I wasn't satisfied with some of the responses I was receiving. And so that's what led me to run for city council. City council was a nice fit for me at the time because it was a part-time position and I could still teach and work on city council. And that was an eye-opener for me because as a citizen, sometimes you feel like, why aren't these elected officials doing anything? And then when you get in the position, you realize that a lot of the things are more complicated than you think from the outside. And so, for example, I'll just give you one example. One lady's basement was flooding, and we couldn't determine if it was flooding from the Bayfront Parkway or if it was flooding from the street on the other side, which was a city street. And it took a while for the engineers to figure out who was responsible and how this was happening. And in the meantime, those 6 months for her basement kept flooding and she was getting upset. But sometimes, you have to get to the root of the problem. And I think that's when government works best. It's not so much when we work quick, but when we work for long-term solutions. And I think for me personally, it's that passion to serve. That's why I got into teaching. That's why I started, with community service and now my work in government. And at the state level, it's even more so important, I think, to connect with the community and to stay rooted in your community. And that's why I try to get to as many events as possible to get a pulse of what people are thinking, what people are saying, so that I can bring that information back to Harrisburg with me and I can make better decisions for the people of Northwest Pennsylvania when we're down in the state capitol.
Okay, thank you. And next to Janet Anderson. So your career has taken an interesting path. You pursued an accounting degree, but didn't make that your career in accounting. While you started in finance at Mellon Bank, you then transitioned into public sector, and you've been working in and around state government ever since. For example, you were the manager of foreign direct investment at the PA Department of Community and Economic Development. You were recruiting companies to invest in Pennsylvania during that role. You then came back to Erie and worked for Governor Tom Ridge, and then you worked for State Senator Jane Earl, leading community and economic development. You also ran for a position for a state senator, but at that point you did not win. And then instead you became the Deputy Secretary of Administration at the Pennsylvania Department of Labor and Industry. Now you are in an executive director role or position of public workforce system. So here's your question. In your job, you support employers and job seekers in our region through funding, training, and employment opportunities. What are the most important skills students should develop and master to be successful in today's job market?
So thank you, Sheila, for the question. You know, my nieces and nephews often ask me what I did when I was growing up, and they always say, Aunt Jan, you did everything. My encouragement for everyone that is young and looking for employment is to test things, test the waters. Work at Pizza Hut, work at the local ice cream shop. Get out there, find out exactly what it is you like. Do internships, co-ops, whatever it might be. I think it's really important to be involved in team activities, things like a sport, things like a club. Get involved and learn your leadership skills. Take advantage of what's out there. Sometimes your parents don't know you as well as your teachers do. Listen to your mentors as well. Explore so you can make informed decisions about your career opportunities prior to being left in the world of adulthood. I think it's really important to learn basic skills. You need to know your math. Take advantage of that while you're in school. You need to know English, reading, writing. It's important to learn that. Those are the basic things that every employer is looking for. I think it's extremely important to get out of your shell, and right now that's hard. But you know, things like Career Street provide you opportunities to actually explore the world of working without leaving your home. Take advantage of that. Your school opportunity is really an advantage for you to decide what it is that you want to be when you grow up. Look at all opportunities. Not everyone has to go away to college. You may want to start slow in a real job right out of high school and explore that opportunity. And what you may find is that your employer may be willing to invest in you. There are more and more employers that are interested in working and helping you to advance your career and your education after you've been engaged with them. So look for those opportunities as well. We spend more time at work than we do at home. And if you don't love what you're doing, then you will spend the rest of your life being miserable. The other thing I would say to you is be flexible. It's really incredibly important to try new things. Representative Mirsky said that he did not start out looking at politics as a career. Look at those opportunities and listen to those mentors.
Okay, thank you. And next to Matt Green. So you are the Park Operation Manager at Presque Isle State Park, one of the most important and busiest tourist destinations in Erie County. You oversee rangers, educators, lifeguards, and all park operations and programming. What interests you in your career, and can you help us understand what a day in the life looks like as the Park Operator Manager?
Sure, Sheila. I would say that much like Representative Mirsky and Janet had said, that you got to think about what you love in your life and try to do those kind of things. I have a huge love for outdoor recreation. I always have since a young boy. And kind of went that way with my whole life. I love to be outside hunting, fishing. I ride off-road motorcycles, hiking, mountain biking with my kids. I love all that stuff, and that's really what brought me into the career field of parks. And with that, it's easy to see that, or easy to think that it's a daunting thing to do, to get into certain positions or to get to a certain level that you want to get to. But I think it's important that you just start and you move in that direction. You find something you love and you go after that kind of thing. If you love what you do, it's not ever like you work. I started as a Park Ranger 1, which is an entry-level position in state parks, and it was a seasonal position, which only provided 5 months of employment at first. Getting into that position opened my eyes to the different opportunities there were within state parks and different things and career tracks you could get into, so you could really fine-tune what you love. The biggest step is the first step, and you take that first step and you can kind of find your way in what you want to do. Another thing that really brought me into parks was kind of a long-standing lifetime of public service. I joined the military at 17, left home, and almost been in some sort of public service role ever since then. After the military, I got into ski patrol. Ski patrol is another kind of frontline first responder type of a role, and that kind of kept me on that career path of outdoor recreation and public service. So I think those are the real big things that kind of brought me to this job. With my job overseeing kind of the overall administration for the whole entire park complex, it ends up being lots of emails, more emails than I want to deal with on a daily basis, but it's all about coordination and coordinating all those different aspects. It's almost like a small town at times. You're dealing with utility infrastructures, you're dealing with public safety, you're dealing with education. All those components are really like a small town in a lot of ways. One of the best parts of my job is that I get to dive into every aspect of that, and every day is a different day. When dealing with the general public in a public service role, you really have the opportunity to see the great parts of people's lives. When they come to the park, they have experiences, they connect with nature, and they make those memories that last them a lifetime, and it's a very rewarding thing in this job. I would say one of the biggest things that I've grown to love about my job as a park manager is that much like in business, you can build a business up in private industry and you can have that legacy for your family. In public service, you can have that too. And in state parks, you can build that legacy of how you manage and how you put that park on a certain trajectory with projects and other things. And that's a very rewarding thing, though, that's going to be around for 50 years, 100 years, 200 years to come.
Thank you. And next to you, Brian, like we mentioned, you're the district executive or engineer for PennDOT. What does PennDOT do? What does it really stand for? And what do you do as an engineer? And also, can you give the students some history about your educational background that got you to where you were to be able to hold this position?
Sure. So PennDOT stands for the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation. All states in the country have a similar organization, a DOT or a Department of Transportation. We own many of the bigger roads and bridges in the state. So roads like Interstate 79 and Interstate 90, for example. Also, even roads that go through cities like 12th Street and 26th Street happen to be streets that the state owns. So we maintain those. That means we clear the snow off of them. Sometimes we partner with municipalities in that effort. We maintain the pavements, the bridges. When I was young, I probably didn't realize, I kind of thought, if a road was built that it was good forever or for a really long time. Our roads need to be repaved almost every 12 years. So it's a constant job of building a new road, then maintaining it throughout its lifetime, and then really rebuilding it on a frequent cycle. And similarly with bridges, we have some huge bridges. Those bridges have to be designed. So as an engineer earlier in my career, that's part of what I did. I designed those bridges. If we had to span a river and the bridge was over 1,000 feet long, there's a lot of engineering calculations and design that goes into every single part of that bridge. So that's been something that we've really enjoyed, that we take a lot of pride in. I oversee, as the district engineer, I oversee a team of 800 people in this northwest corner of the state, over 800. And it includes people who are equipment operators who do the plowing and the other maintenance activities. It includes every kind of environmental specialists. We have traffic engineers, we have civil engineers, we have folks who are experts in real estate, so they decide they'll go out if we need to purchase a piece of property for a project. They'll go out and assess it to see, how we go about that purchasing. And I guess I'd say, similar to others and similar to what Matt said, my beginning, I'd go all the way back to my childhood. I liked playing with Legos and things like that. I liked building tree houses when I was a kid. In high school, I didn't know what career I wanted to go into at all. Even when graduating as a senior, I just knew I liked to work with my hands and build things. I got into building houses for a few years that led to specifically timber framing houses, which is kind of a neat, almost like a log cabin way that you build. And it was figuring out some of those angles and going back to trigonometry that made a light bulb turn on in my mind that I like that aspect of things. I like design. And that's what prompted me to go to college for civil engineering.
Okay, thank you. And the next set of questions we're going to ask all of the panelists to give their answers to. So when you look at your respective roles with a certain amount of preparation and awareness about what you're getting into, what is something you've had to face that you didn't expect, and what's best prepared you to handle it? Mr. Mirsky?
I think the biggest thing for me, the most difficult thing I had to face was losing an election. I ran for mayor. I was on city council and I ran for mayor. And I came in second place and I lost. And I had an obligation the next day that I committed to be at City Hall for the police department for a ceremony that they have to honor fallen police officers. And that was probably the hardest thing I had to do, was get up the next day and go back to work and face everybody and you feel like like you're defeated at that point in your after you just lose something. But to get back out there, I think for me, it built character, and I think that's when people go to work, you're not always going to get the job. You're not always going to win the game. And I think sometimes in losing, you build a perspective, and it made me a better person the next time I ran for something because I learned from my mistakes. And it made me a better person because I understood that life isn't always easy, and it's not always just going to, a red carpet's not going to roll out for you every time. And so for the young people out there, I would say that, to be perseverant and don't give up. And if a door closes somewhere, look for the window that opens, and there's going to be something else that comes along, and you'll be okay at the end. I think, though, that, for me, that challenge was hard. In my personal life, it's just the balance of having a family and being committed to the community and making sure that balance is there, that I'm taking care of my wife and my children, and we're investing in our relationship as husband and wife, and then also meeting the obligations of my job. Sometimes that's hard because there'll be a big issue, or you'll need to be at 3 different events in your district, and your child they have a baseball game at the same time, or a soccer game, and you have to make decisions. And I think in those decisions is where you find your values, and in those decisions is where you build the person you're going to be. So my advice to the young people is, don't be afraid to fail. Make those tough choices, because they're going to make you the person that you're supposed to become. You were made for a purpose, on purpose, and so find your path. And if you do that, sometimes you do that through, it's not all just a paved road. Sometimes there's adversity, and it's in getting through that adversity that you find out who you really are.
Okay, thank you. And Janet, what is something that you had to face that you didn't expect, and what do you think helped best prepare you for that?
So I received a degree in accounting from Penn State University, and as a junior, I called my mom and said, I don't think I want to do accounting, it's boring. And she said, you're 2/3 of the way through, 3/4 of the way through. You are going to finish this, and you will be surprised at how well it will treat you. And my mom was right, she always is. And through that experience, I stayed in accounting, and I have never, I did work in finance in Mellon Bank, but I realized that I really wanted to help people, and that was not the way to do it. And so I found a way in economic development to help companies in the community, and by helping companies, we're helping people. And so I was in lending, and I did similar to commercial lending. And I loved my job. And after I was in that position for about a year, my boss approached me and said, you're going to do international trade, marketing, consulting with companies. And I said, nope, that's great. I don't do well in that. I like black and white, I like numbers. And he told me I had no choice unless I wanted to leave the company. And it was similar to what Representative Mirsky said, you have to make a decision. And I dug deep and decided that it was time for me to try something new. Maybe I don't know myself as well as I think I do. And so I did that, and you heard that I became the Foreign Direct Investment Manager for the state of Pennsylvania. I traveled all around the world. I had the opportunity to meet Sony and big companies like that and convince them to invest in Pennsylvania. I had a network of people that worked for me everywhere in the world, covering the entire world, that were out recruiting companies. And it was something that I thought I could not do. I was given the opportunity to pursue additional educational opportunities. I have several certificates in international trade that I otherwise would not have had, and may have spent most of my career regretting not having taken that opportunity. And just like Representative Mirsky, there is a family balance. When I was doing foreign direct investment and working in Harrisburg, I had 2 small daughters, and my husband did not want to move them out of Erie County. So I commuted back and forth to Harrisburg 1/3 of the time, and then traveled 1/3 of the year around the world, and then got to spend a little less than 1/3 of my time here in Erie. So it's that balance. You have to find a way to make yourself happy and to maintain those relationships, and to explore you, because it's really important for you to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. And Matt, can you give some advice to the students, what you had to face that you didn't expect and how you were prepared to handle it?
Sure. I would say that probably one of the biggest things that I wasn't expecting getting into the role in park management within the Bureau of State Parks was just that you can't fix everything. There's always something that needs tweaked, that needs adjusted, that needs fixed, whether it's a maintenance item or it's policy about something that you do within your workforce. You just can't fix it all when you want to fix it. You need to surround yourself with good people. You really need to have a good mentor. You need to have somebody you can bounce things off of when you're feeling like, I really want to go this direction, but I'm not 100% sure. You need to have somebody you can pick up the phone and call and say, hey, what do you think about this? You also need to surround yourself with good people. I have 3 assistant managers at Presque Isle State Park, and it's good to have those 3 assistant managers that can take care of those details and you can bounce stuff off of as well, and have that open rapport and conversation with constantly to tackle those things, because the list is always long, no matter if you're no matter what part of government you're in. There's always a bunch of stuff that needs to get done, and you feel like you never have enough time to do it. So you need to be able to prioritize those things, surround yourself with good people, and perseverance, like the representative said, perseverance is the key to this, because in government you're playing the long game. You're playing for not just 6 months from now, you're playing for 5 years, you're playing for 50 years, you're playing for 100 years.
Okay, thank you. And Brian, what prepared you?
I would say that the unexpected thing that I've dealt with in my career, in this position in particular, would be working on projects that affect many, many people. Maybe even 30,000 or 100,000 or more people might have an opinion about what a particular project should look like, what it should do. So we have a lot of public involvement meetings and things like that where we go out and try to seek that input. And it's a very worthwhile thing to do, and it helps us design our projects. But the hard part is that you can't ever get 100,000 people to agree on something. And what they don't really teach you in engineering school is how to navigate those conversations. So it's really about how you are socially. It's about part of that skill set is something that goes all the way back to how you interact with your peers at every age of life. For me, I think to myself, I hope that I've been a fair person in dealing with others. I have 4 kids, so that's another way that I kind of draw that connection or make that analogy that sometimes I have to be like a judge almost. If something happens with my kids, you have to figure out, something occurred in a room and you weren't there, you kind of have to sort it out and try to come to a peaceful and a fair way to go forward. So again, that's something that I think you learn at every stage throughout life, including high school. How are you with your friends? Are you able to be a peacemaker when there's conflict? That's an important soft skill to have.
Okay. And the next question, when you look back at your life, what advice do you have for students if they are interested in running for office, working for the government, or volunteering in their community? Representative Mirsky?
Thank you for that question. I think one of the best pieces of advice that I could give is to get involved. Just jump in. If you want to get involved in a campaign, if you think you might be interested in politics, volunteer on someone's campaign you're attracted to, with their platform and that campaign. I think that's one of the things that I did when I started taking an interest in politics. My father was an elected official, but he was more in law enforcement, but I got involved in his campaign. But it really wasn't until President Obama ran for office that I got involved. And from there, I was able to meet all kinds of people and network and make connections to other people who then helped me on my path as I went forward. And I discovered that's something that I enjoyed. I enjoyed meeting people, talking to people, and those people introduced me to other people, and that's how that came about in that way. In terms of the community, there are needs everywhere in this community, and there are opportunities to jump in for young people anywhere in the city. And so I just encourage you to find something that you're passionate about and get involved. It could be in your school. When I was at Collegiate Academy, a lot of students, this was when the gun violence was happening, and they started the Erie Student Coalition out of scratch. They did it from nothing, and they did it and just by talking to each other, using social media, and they've organized a group. So even if there's nothing out there that fits your needs right now, you can create something. That's the beauty of the social media now, is that you can find people who have like-minded views and are interested in the same things that you are. And that's how I encourage people to go forward. Dive in and just do it. Like Nike says, just do it.
Okay. And Janet?
So I'm going to give you an example. When I ran for state senate and was unsuccessful, I had never considered that opportunity in my career. I was not active in the party. I was not looking for those opportunities. I had been around it. I had been engaged from that perspective in work, but had never been involved in a campaign. And I was encouraged by my mentors to think about it and to run. And after 3 no's, I finally said, yes, I will step into this and see how it goes. And similar to Representative Mirsky, I was a very poor loser. I didn't like it at all. And it is hard. But what I will tell you is that it's eye-opening. I learned more about myself. I learned more about the community that I live in. I learned more about people in general. And it was a very rewarding part of my career, even in the loss. And in fact, I almost feel that the loss really made me a better person after I got over the pain of that. But I think, similar to Representative Mirsky, I think you have to step into things and try things even when you are unsure. I think you all have the opportunity by being in school to try things that maybe you don't think you'd like. There's nothing wrong with failing. You may actually learn something very important about yourself through that failure, and you will come out on the other side, if you reflect, a better person than when you went in.
Great. And next to Matt, I'll reread the question for you. When you look back at your life, what advice would you have for students if they're interested in running for office, working for government, or volunteering in their community?
Sure. I'll echo what's been said already here too, that you can't be afraid to fail. Failure is one of the best teaching tools that there are out there. I echo this to my 13-year-old and my 10-year-old all the time. Failure is great in the fact that you learn so much from that, and it shapes who you are and how you approach things, how you deal with things for the rest of your life. If you never fail, you're never learning. And that's a huge part of any career you have, whether it's government or private industry. I also like to say that I think, looking back at my life, if you would have asked my mother when I was a whitewater guide in the summer and a ski patroller in the winter, making not very much money with zero retirement options at that point, it wasn't looking very good for me as a long-term career opportunity. But I will say, if you follow what you're passionate about, you follow your heart in what you enjoy, whether it's being outside in the environment or helping others, those engineering things, fixing things, I think it's important you follow those things and you can find a path to make a good, successful career. Just like I said with myself, I love the outdoors, and it really wasn't a good career option at first in what I was doing, but that led me on that path to where I am today at one of the most visited state parks all across the nation. So there's always a path forward if you keep that perseverance and you learn from your mistakes and try things out there.
Okay, great. And Brian?
Yeah, I would say that you kind of have, in my case, using my personal example, there were a couple of decision points of whys in the road where I decided to go one way rather than the other. So first of all, engineering-wise, I love my career. I've loved every step of the way. A lot of different types of positions in engineering. So most of the people that I work with who have chosen the same path also love what they do. They're passionate about it. And then the decision to where you are an engineer, what kind of engineer you might want to be. In my case, I chose civil engineering, and for a few years I worked in the private sector. So for a consultant who designed land development plans for new buildings and things like that. To move to PennDOT has been a great change for me, and it's really rewarding to be part of public projects that benefit huge numbers of people. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with working on the private side. We work with a lot of those folks as well. But I personally find it very rewarding to see a project completed that I know is improving the lives of the people who use it. An old bridge that is past its useful life being brand new and replaced, a new intersection with maybe better sidewalks or better traffic flow that hopefully keep people safer and keep them moving to where they want to go is a very rewarding and fulfilling experience for me and the people I work with.
Okay, thank you. Unfortunately, we're running out of time now, and on behalf of Gannon University, Erie Together, and U.S. Senator Pat Toomey's office, thank you so much for your time and providing this insight to the students. I think they're going to walk away with a much better understanding of not only what state government does, but opportunities for them with career development. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.